And good morning, everybody, and welcome. Maybe it's not morning for you. Maybe it's afternoon. Maybe it's evening. Maybe it's a week from now. Maybe it's 10 years from now. Maybe I'm dead by the time you're watching this. I have no idea. However, for me, at this moment, it is Tuesday, August the 16th, and it is a Tuesday edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull. And coming up on today's show, I talk about yesterday's doubleheader. Like, I'm some other person. I guess I'm saying I. So I'm going to get into the Guardians doubleheader. I thought they had the sweep last night. It was disappointing that they did not get that sweep. But nonetheless, they did at least get one win yesterday against the Tigers. You want to try to, the Tigers are so bad. You really like to get the sweep there. And they had the lead, but they let it go. We'll get to that. And also plenty to go talk about from Browns camp as the injuries have piled up and why I think people are panicking too much. We'll get to all of that in today's edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
All right, yes, indeed. Here I am, back for another edition. And a lot to get to today. So the Guardians last night lose the second game of the doubleheader. It's a little disappointing. Listen, I mean, we're down the stretch here. You really want to pile up those wins. But in the end, winning the division gets you the 3 seed in the American League. I'd like them to have as good a record as possible. I think they got a shot to win 90 games. I think they'll probably fall short of that, but I'm all in. I am all in on the Guardians right now. You can't win them all. They have the kid going in the second game of the doubleheader. I thought he pitched Xavier Curry. I thought he pitched. I thought he looked all right. He had his moments. Francona. Folks, I love Francona. I do think, and this is not really unique to him. I do think with the young pitchers when they're really just starting, I think too often these days, at the first sign of trouble, we're looking to take them out, and I hate that. Because I thought he looked good. And they had a 3-1 lead, and he's not like blowing guys away with a million strikeouts, but they scored the 3 runs in the first inning, and then in the top of the 5th, in the second game of the doubleheader, Curry gets in some trouble. But they weren't like smacking him around. It was like some ground ball hits. They just kind of found the right spot. He made some good pitches. They hit by can't remember who it was. Now I got to look at the play-by-play in that inning because I really liked the way he was going, and I would have given. He only was at 70-something pitches. I would have kept him in for the 6th. And I just wanted to see more of him. It was Reyes. So Tucker Barnhart gets a base hit. And then with 1 out, Riley Green hits one up the middle. Okay, first and second. And then Reyes, the first baseman, he just hit a good pitch. I mean, I thought that was a really good pitch by him there. And Reyes just, put the good bat on the ball. I think I said first baseman. Victor Reyes is not the first baseman. Harold Castro is the first baseman. But I don't know. I thought Curry pitched well. I wanted to see him go on the 6th. I'm not just saying it because obviously my man Eli Morgan, who was just killing it early in the season, has struggled and gives up the back-to-back home runs in the 6th. And, that's 5-3, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the Guardians did come back, and they had some opportunities. Rosario hit into a double play earlier in the game. He had a rough day, and he's been playing so well. I'm not going to kill him. He had a rough day. I think he went 0 for 8 in the doubleheader, 0 for 9. But, in the seventh, Quan gets the base hit to make it 5-4, and they've got first and second, 2 outs, and Rosario grounds into another double play. So he hit two big double plays in this game. One in the fifth after a leadoff hit by Quan, and then, of course, in the seventh, with 2 on, with the tying run at second and only 1 out. So it was a rough day for him. What are you going to do? And then the Tigers kind of put it away with 2 more runs in the eighth. And the Guardians got 1 back. Luke Maile had a good game. I give him credit. Yeah, every time one of the catchers does anything, I get a tweet from somebody as if, one good game from Luke Maile proves me wrong that he's like really a good player. Somebody sent me the other day when, Austin Hedges had a decent game. Was it Sunday, I think. I got like 3 tweets from the same guy about Austin Hedges as if, this one game shows that I'm wrong, that Austin Hedges actually is a good hitter. Austin Hedges is what he is. He's a good defensive player, and ultimately the Guardians decided to some degree they weren't going to worry about the hitting, although, according to Zach Meisel, they were trying to get a catcher at the trade deadline. So they know it's a weakness. Now, they don't necessarily want to replace him with a guy who's not as good a defensive player, but they were looking to upgrade the position offensively without hurting themselves too much defensively. This is not 1976. You don't want 150 hitters who don't get on base in the lineup. I don't care how good they are defensively. So anyway, but Maile did have a good game. But unfortunately, the Guardians pitching, which has been really good, kind of fell apart late, and the bullpen didn't pitch well. Both Eli Morgan and the great Brian Shaw. Shaw struggled. Both Morgan and Shaw. I can't trust either of them in a big spot right now. Neither one's pitching well. Morgan was so good early in the season, but he's not fooling anybody at the moment. As we talked about with the back-to-back home runs. So, yeah, he's really struggled. In the first game, obviously, Aaron Savali, who has really struggled, pitched well. Now, I hesitate to get too excited about a performance against the Tigers, who are, not very good, but I want to give Savali credit. He you needed something. He's pitched terribly, and even though it was not against a very good lineup, that team still got a ton of hits in the second game. Savali was dominant, and he could have gone longer too. But I think at that point, Francona was like, okay, well, he's thrown 82 pitches. He's just come off the injured list, somewhat recently. He's dominated. He's been struggling. Let's leave him. Let's take him out of the game feeling good. And that's why he took him out there. And, they go to the pen. And the pen in the first game obviously pitched well. But Savali, all right, I got some commercial playing. Let me shut that off. I don't know if you folks can hear that. Anyway, Savali pitched really well. 10 strikeouts in that first game. So, and maybe, it's a sign of things to come. I'm trying to be optimistic because I really don't have any faith in Savali. I don't have much faith in, listen, I love McKenzie and I love Bieber. And I think Bieber's pitching his best baseball in 2 years, which is really important. The other guys got to show me. They have been inconsistent. Savali's been terrible for the most part. The other guys, Plesac and Quantrill have been inconsistent. As we come down the stretch here in the final 6 weeks, if the Guardians are going to make the playoffs, they're going to need at least 3, if not 4 starters. These other 3 guys are going to have a chance to show who belongs in that rotation, who can we possibly trust. They're going to have to use at least one of those 3 guys. Can Savale, who at times in the past has pitched really well, can he pitch well enough down the stretch where maybe he becomes one of the top four? That's possible. Plesac and Quantrill haven't pitched well enough to distance themselves. Got to say, once again, credit to Andres Gimenez, who had a great doubleheader yesterday. A big first game, hit that clutch 3-run homer in the 7th inning in the afternoon game. This kid's just been so good. And he's not even 24 years old. He's going to turn 24 in a couple of weeks. When the Guardians made the trade with the Mets for Gimenez and Rosario as the two centerpieces in that deal, I thought at the time, obviously a lot of people were upset at the time. Now, I didn't want the Guardians to trade Francisco Lindor. I don't buy the teams can't have higher payrolls. We've been through this time and time again. But once they decided to trade him, I thought, it was a tough spot because he only had 1 year left. And I thought at the time that Gimenez and Rosario as the two key pieces in the deal, I thought they did pretty well. I thought they probably did as well as they could. Well, they certainly did a lot better than most people and certainly myself thought, because I never thought Andres Gimenez was going to be this good a player. I thought he'd be a decent player. I actually thought Rosario would be better. Rosario's played kind of how I thought he would. He's been a good player. But I was less sold on Gimenez, and he's obviously been the better player. He has completely blossomed this year and has been an all-star. He was an all-star, and he's continued to play like an all-star in the second half of the season. I mean, he's been phenomenal. The guy might have 20 homers, 20 steals. There's not that many players these days that do that. He's got a 377 on base, an 880 OPS. I mean, an 880 OPS for a guy with 14 home runs. I mean, that's not a ton of home runs. Gimenez is never going to be a 40 home run guy, but he just does everything well. He plays good defense. He runs the bases. He's got a good arm. He gets on base. He hits for good average. He has some power. He has speed. And the trade, which at the time, again, I thought was good deal, best they could do. Now it's a lot better than that. I mean, right now the trade looks like an absolute huge win. And I don't think we need, I think we don't need to downgrade Francisco Lindor to make ourselves feel better. Francisco Lindor's having a hell of a season. He's still a really good player. He had a down year last year, his first year with the Mets, no doubt. He's having a really good year. I don't think we need to crap on Francisco Lindor to be happy with our end of the deal. Yes, if you're the Guardians, you would not take back the deal right now. Yes, if you're the Mets, you might. Now, listen, there's no guarantee Gimenez would have become this kind of player in New York. Not everybody could play in New York. If you could guarantee the Mets that Gimenez was going to be this good in New York, yeah, they wouldn't make the trade. But you never know. So I think that's something you got to factor in. But from the Guardians' perspective, I mean, this trade is a massive win. Because you traded a guy that you were unwilling to sign and who's a really good player and having a really good season. But he's not having as good a season as Gimenez alone, and and then you throw in Rosario, who's having a good season as well. And again, it's not like, Gimenez was pretty good last year. Rosario was good last year. Plus, they're paying Francisco Lindor a ton of money. Now, they also got Carlos Carrasco in that deal. Carlos Carrasco, who again wasn't great last year, has pitched really well. Guardians also got two other minor leaguers, Josh Wolf and Isaiah Green. Who Josh Wolf is I don't know if he's going to be anything. He's in rookie ball this year. He hasn't pitched much. So we'll see about the other guys. Isaiah Green at Lynchburg this season has been decent. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of speed. So we'll see. I don't know if these other guys, we'll see if they pan out. Who knows? Again, it's not just for Lindor, it was Carrasco. But if you're the Guardians, considering the situation they were in with Lindor, they did a phenomenal job, as they almost always do. That's why this team has been consistently good, because the front office is special, the manager is special, and even though they are seriously hamstrung by the owner right now because the payroll is so low and he's been unwilling, it seems, to raise it. We'll see if they do next year. We'll see if the additional minority owner being brought in, brings an influx of cash. But for now, you got to credit them, and just an absolutely, it's an absolute great. When you trade a player like Francisco Lindor, you hope you can get one good player back. And so far, they're 2 for 2. We'll see. I mean, again, the other two guys, who knows? But you've got two guys that could start for you for a while. I know there's been some talk about them moving on Rosario, and he's not, and they might do it because, they got a lot of good middle infielders. I could very well see them trading Rosario this offseason. But then whoever they cash in on that deal, you look at that as part of the package as well. I like Rosario a lot. I think he fits with this team well. But with all the infield prospects they have, I do think it's certainly possible they could trade Rosario away this offseason. We shall see. As we start today on Tuesday, the Guardians are 62-54. They're 8 games over 500. They're 2 games ahead of both Minnesota and the White Sox for the division lead. They're right there with Tampa, Toronto, and Seattle for the third best record. The Yankees are playing terrible baseball. They got off to such a great start. They still have a 10-game lead in the East, but they're playing awful baseball. They can't hit. They can't pitch right now. Houston looks like the best team in baseball. But the Guardians right now with 62 wins, I mean, Tampa and Toronto have 61. Seattle's got 63. The Guardians are right there. And maybe the Yankees will right the ship. This idea that you can't beat these top teams, I just don't buy it. And we'll see. I'm all in on the Guardians right now. And hopefully they will continue their winning ways, if you will. As they continue their series with the Tigers today. Pitching matchup today. They've got Zach Plesac on the hill. It's a 7-10 start tonight. Plesac's record awful at 2-10. He's pitched better lately. Garrett Hill's a young guy for the Tigers. I do like the Guardians, but I'm always going to like them when they're playing the Tigers, so hopefully they'll get it done. Twins hosting the Royals tonight. Looking at the division. White Sox were playing better here. Keep an eye on them. They've won, I think, 5 in a row. They are at home for the Astros. Great pitching matchup in that game tonight. If you just feel like watching a random game, maybe going back and forth during the commercials when the Guardians are playing. If you're a big baseball fan, that's Dylan Cease and Justin Verlander in that Astros White Sox. I mean, that's a fantastic matchup. They've been 2 of the best pitchers in the American League. That game could be a lot of fun to watch. All right. I'm going to take a break. Long overdue for a first one. And I'm going to get to some football. I'll tell you when we come back. A quick break right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews of and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Browns, the injuries have been piling up a little bit, and I know there's always a sense of doom when it comes to the Browns. And I think now more so than ever. I'm not someone who believes in jinxes. Uh, and like, the Browns are snake bit because they traded for Deshaun Watson. Like they're gonna get bad karma because they traded for a guy who's done some bad things, crossed the line, and now that's why guys are getting hurt. That's just silly. I understand why fans tend to panic about the Browns or think it's going to go wrong. We were talking about Jay was on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show yesterday, was wearing a T-shirt that said, quarterback purgatory. And even though the Browns have traded for the most talented quarterback in franchise history, it still feels like the Browns are in quarterback purgatory because we don't know when he's going to play. We continue to wait for the answer from the appeal. Hopefully it'll happen this week, but how many times have we said that along the way in this process? We do know with near certainty that Deshaun Watson will not be playing to start the season. There's a decent chance he won't play at all this year. I'm still holding out hope that the suspension is going to be 8 or 10 or 12 games, and that we will see him at some point this year. But I know there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of anxiety. And let's talk about the center position. We know Nick Harris got hurt. Talked about this yesterday. He is done for the year with the knee injury. The Browns drafted another center, Dawson Deaton, in the 7th round. He tore his ACL in practice yesterday, and so now 2 of the top 3 centers have got knee injuries in the last, 3 days or whatever it is, 4 days. Ethan Pocic, I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Pocic. Veteran player, high draft pick of Seattle, has not played well overall in the league. He is expected to be the starter at this point. Obviously, we've talked quite a bit in the last couple of days about J.C. Tretter. I've heard some rumblings that maybe, there's some bad blood between him and the team. The team and a lot of the teams around the league are ticked that he kind of got guys to not go to OTAs last year and whatever. That seems silly and short-sighted that the Browns wouldn't sign him for that reason. Now, some people have said, well, maybe J.C. Tretter doesn't want to come back. Joel Bitonio on Sunday said he'd love to have him back. I don't think Joel Bitonio would say that if he didn't think J.C. Tretter was willing to come back. We had John Greco, another Browns, John Greco is a former Browns offensive lineman as opposed to current Browns offensive lineman Joel Bitonio. But I asked John Greco yesterday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, is there a chance, the fact that the Browns cut him, he was supposed to make $8 million roughly, and because of all the rumblings about him being the Players Association, the head of the Players Association, is there a chance that he wouldn't want to come back? And John Greco said he didn't think that was the case. There's been no credible source that I've seen that has said J.C. Tretter wouldn't come back to the Browns. I understand Pocic has been here. I understand he's played in the league. What I also understand is I saw with my eyes, and I read the PFF grades, and J.C. Tretter was still amongst the best centers in the league last year. It makes no sense that he's still out there. Joe Bitonio, who never says anything controversial, basically said Sunday that he doesn't have a job because he's the union president. So he must strongly believe that. For him to go as far as to say it is he must feel strongly about that. Obviously, they're friends. Some people said to me I shouldn't say some people. There was like 2 people on Twitter saying, well, maybe he's a distraction. He's not. What? Because he's the union president? The player, he's not a distraction for the players. I mean, the owners might be mad that he got them to not go to OTAs or whatever it is, but who cares? He's looking out for his guys. Somebody's got to. The owners certainly aren't. So that's not a distraction to the team. That's silly. I don't think there's any players distracted by J.C. Tretter. That doesn't make any sense at all. This is a no-brainer here. He's been here. He doesn't miss time. He plays at a high level. He's better than anybody you got. What are we waiting for here? I mean, we're really not signing J.C. Tretter because he's the president of the Players Union? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Are we trying to win or not? Are we waiting to see if Deshaun Watson's going to get back this year before we spend any money? I mean, I think that's factoring in. I think that's got to factor into what they might do with Jimmy Garoppolo or try to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'll talk about that next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. So I just talked about the fact that, could they possibly, the Browns just might not be interested in J.C. Tretter at all. But could they possibly be waiting to see what happens with Watson? Maybe it's not that black and white. In my mind, I'm almost thinking of it as if Watson can come back at all, the Browns have a chance to win the Super Bowl. If Watson is suspended for the season, I think they don't. Now, it's obviously not that black and white. Of course, it's possible they can win a Super Bowl if he doesn't play at all this year. And certainly it's not a guarantee they'll even make the playoffs if he plays this year, especially if it's only like 5 games. But as you know, anybody who knows me knows that I'm convinced in this NFL, especially in this NFL, in this AFC, that you cannot go to the Super Bowl. It's hard enough to make the playoffs, let alone go to the Super Bowl, unless you have a top 10 quarterback. And don't get hung up on 10. That line could be 8 or 11, whatever. You know what I mean. A frontline quarterback, which Deshaun Watson is, and Baker wasn't, and Jimmy G isn't, and Jacoby Brissett isn't, and Josh Dobbs isn't, Josh Rosen isn't, and anybody else. The only guy that could possibly play for the Browns this year that's a frontline quarterback is Deshaun Watson. They can't, I don't think they can win a Super Bowl. I think there's almost no chance of them winning a Super Bowl without him. I think they have a better chance to make the playoffs and stay in contention if he's going to come back with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I don't know if the Browns are thinking the same thing. In my mind, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to affect the cap big time for next year, right? So I'm only willing to do that if I'm getting Watson back. I think the difference between Brissett and Garoppolo matters if Watson's coming back, because that difference could be the difference between them going 6-6, 7-5 without Watson, or 5-9, or 5-7, or 4-8 even, or maybe it's 7-5 and 8-4 even. I think Garoppolo gets you 1 or 2 more wins over Brissett. And that might not sound like a lot, but that could be the difference in the NFL where it's really tight. That could be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. And if Watson comes back and you're 7-5 as opposed to 5-7, that's a huge difference. You got a much better shot. But if Watson is suspended for the year, I personally wouldn't go down the Garoppolo road, because I think their chances of making the playoffs with Garoppolo doing 17 games is low, and the chances of winning the Super Bowl are almost non-existent. Now, I know some would disagree. He's obviously played well in the playoffs at times. I just don't see it. All right, a lot more coming up about this and about the Guardians on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Tuesday edition. Please follow me on Twitter if you're not already, at Adam the Bull. Check out my Cameo. Make videos for fantasy football, for birthdays, congratulations, whatever you want to get into. And check out my website, adamthebull.com, where you can go to the Book the Bull page and potentially hire me to do your wedding. I'm certified. Speaking engagements, whatever you're looking for, I'm willing to do it. Not anything, but most things. Most things. All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow on a Wednesday edition. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.